What the hell? What is that, Mom? Ma, you see this?
What would happen if the sky and the ocean stopped being quiet and started sending out warning signals all at the same time? Bright streaks cutting across the clouds, tight whirlpools churning the sea, glowing orbs rising from the horizon, red lightning flashing hard in the storm, the sky changing color, strange shapes hanging low like they're watching us. 10 phenomena showing up, one after another, like a chain of warnings to humanity. So, if this is a reminder, how much time do we have left? Leave a prayer in the comments to show you believe these aren't just random things happening. Amen. And now come with me, we're going to keep going on this journey, because the next part won't be easy to ignore. Let's get started with 1. The cross of Jesus in the sky over Brazil. A huge cross suddenly appeared among the clouds in the sky over Sao Paulo. The light cut right through the gray background and stayed so clear and sharp that nobody could ignore it. In that moment, we all knew this wasn't just some ordinary cloud. That symbol hung there above the busy city, where millions of people are used to the constant noise and rush, and now they all stopped and looked up at the same bright spot. Right in the middle of the crowded city full of tall buildings and highways, the cross stretched out hundreds of feet. Its edges were straight and sharp, like someone drew them across the sky. A golden light spread around it, making a glow very different from normal clouds. Some people froze in place, others pointed up, holding their phones high to capture every second. In just a few minutes, the picture spread all over social media, starting a big wave of heated arguments. The crowd's reactions split into two clear sides. Many saw it as a rare optical effect and tried to explain it with weather science. But the believers stayed amazingly calm. They just quietly prayed without a word. That contrast made the usual noisy atmosphere feel suddenly heavy, as if each person was choosing how to face what had just happened. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with great power and glory." Those words came to mind for a lot of people as they looked at the cross, standing out so clearly in the clouds, not twisted, not fading fast like regular clouds, but holding its shape long enough for everyone to see it plainly. This isn't the first time the world has seen a cross shape up in the sky. From mountain states in the United States to remote areas in Australia, but the size and sharpness this time made even experts hesitate before giving an answer. Some said it was just a coincidence of light and water vapor, but the way it stretched for miles across a clear sky made that explanation hard to accept for everybody. Revelation 1-7 says, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him." When they read that again, many believers felt they had just seen a confirmation, not random chance, but a direct reminder sent right down into the biggest city in South America. This wasn't just a curious picture. It was a sign that makes people stop and ask themselves where they stand in faith and in these times. If that cross wasn't simply clouds and light, then what is being announced above our heads? And now that the sky has spoken once, will it keep sending other signs we haven't noticed yet? 2. A strange cloud that looked like a giant monster hanging in the sky over Anaheim, California. A long black shape suddenly dropped down from the sky, like something was reaching out from above. Dark streaks hung low, close to the water, and the whole area around Anaheim went completely quiet. The shape wasn't round or breaking up. It split into several thin branches, floating hundreds of feet above the lake. In just a few seconds, the usual busy tourist scene turned tense and uneasy. Those dark streaks dangled there, thin like strings but reaching down low, swaying gently in the air without making a sound. It felt almost like they were touching the water below. You could see the people around you change. Their eyes got different when they realized this wasn't like any cloud they'd ever seen before. The long silence made a lot of folks shiver, even though there wasn't a bit of wind. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Those words came back like a picture in people's minds, while the dark shape stayed right there overhead, not spreading like smoke, not drifting like a regular cloud. It hung long enough that the crowd started connecting what they were seeing to those old warnings about strange signs. Some folks said it was just scud clouds or smoke from a fireworks test, like those smoke rings that fooled people before. But the way it stretched out like tentacles, all so even and perfect, didn't calm anybody down. The shape wasn't just sitting up there. It felt like it was reaching or interacting with the space below on purpose. Revelation 12:3 says, "Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on each head a crown." When people read that again, a lot of them took it as a quiet hint, because that thing stretching down from the sky gave the feeling of something real and alive, something your eyes couldn't quite take in all at once. If this wasn't just some random mix of water vapor and light, then the shape that showed up could be a warning sign of a darkness moving closer than we realize. And since those dark arms already reached down once, who's to say next time they'll stop at the same distance or come even closer? 3. A strange fold in the sky. A perfectly straight, bright streak suddenly stretched across the night sky. No curve, no spreading, nothing like any trail we've ever seen. It left a lot of folks on the ground completely quiet as they realized it wasn't moving the usual way. You could spot this sight from busy neighborhoods all the way to empty deserts, and in every video, that line of light stayed exactly the same, like a clean cut across space. The streak ran for dozens of miles, with bright points lined up like pearls on a string, giving off steady white light without any wobble, even though no object could be seen flying along it. Online folks quickly started comparing natural versus man-made explanations. Some said it was a SpaceX satellite train, while others pointed out how almost perfectly straight it was, and how even the spacing between the lights seemed too regular for any atmospheric thing. Debates about technology versus nature's rules popped up everywhere under those viral videos. Matthew 24:27 says, "For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be." People often bring up this verse as the key when a light line stretches from one horizon to the other, like a signal connecting both ends of the sky, in a way science can't fully explain. Some observers kept arguing it's just a satellite orbit, but this showed up at the same time in many different places, lasting way longer than usual for past launches. That steady, straight line holding for several minutes made quite a few people feel they were seeing something beyond the normal predictions. Revelation 8:5 says, "Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." Many see this as the clue that connects the recent streak of light to a boundary being drawn across the sky. If it's not just a chain of man-made objects, that straight line could be a reminder of a separation happening right overhead. And once the sky has been crossed like that one time, will the next line stay about the same distance away or come even closer? 4. Mysterious glowing things appear by the shore. A quiet horizon suddenly twists and warps while the sunset hasn't quite died out yet. The calm water looks like something nudged it from underneath, cracking into thin streaks of light. No noise, no warning, just one moment when the air feels heavier, like the ocean is holding its breath before revealing something hidden for far too long. From the darkening surface, 2 glowing objects suddenly burst upward, shooting hundreds of feet into the air, then hanging there for just a few short seconds. Their light doesn't blink like a signal light. It burns steady, like a living flame. What do you think that really was? Luke 21:25. There will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On earth, nations will be in anguish and confusion because of the roaring and tossing of the sea. A lot of people figure it could be glowing sea creatures or some test device from advanced tech, but the light doesn't spread out the way sea life does, and the speed they rise doesn't match any man-made thing that's ever been shown. What's even stranger is how they just stop dead in midair, like an invisible force is holding them up. Then they fade into nothing, no heat trail, no smoke left behind. In the last few frames before the light goes out completely, some sharp-eyed viewers spotted faint geometric shapes around the bright core, like folded wings wrapped around a tall, upright form, almost like a human shape, but not quite from this world. If you stare long enough, it feels like you're watching something rise up from the deep, bringing not just light, but a real sense of presence. Revelation 13:1. I saw a beast coming up out of the sea. It had 7 heads and 10 horns, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. What came up from the ocean that night wasn't just lights or flying objects. It felt more like a signal sent from the deepest part of the world, reminding us the sea doesn't only hold shipwrecks and old memories. When the water went back to calm like nothing ever happened, one question still hangs over the horizon. If the ocean can send up things like that, what else is waiting its turn to come up? 5. Mysterious whirlpool appears suddenly in Norway. The sea surface suddenly drops like an invisible hand pushing down hard from above. The water swirls and spreads wide in just a few short seconds. Before we can even figure out what's happening, the boat ahead is rocking violently. In the cold waters near the Lofoten Islands in Norway, a huge whirlpool forms, pulling up waves that stand like a living wall of water. That whirlpool doesn't just spin, it grows out for miles. The current races at speeds that can hit 20 miles per hour, creating a pull strong enough to drag small boats off course. Local people have long called it the Mosquito, one of the most powerful whirlpools in the world. But in that moment, it doesn't feel like a normal tide anymore. It feels like a living thing waking up. Waves crash hard against the boat's side. The water shapes into a deep, funnel-like hole. What really panics many fishermen isn't just its power, it's the feeling of being chased, as the whirlpool seems to move right along with the boat trying to escape. Science explains it as tides meeting the uneven seabed, but that strange shifting still makes witnesses feel something is actively stirring up the ocean. Luke 21:25. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. When you see that giant swirl turning like a bottomless pit, it's hard not to think of a supreme power that can make the whole ocean twist in pain. If God could create the seas with just a word, is it really beyond him to stir them up as a warning to mankind? Revelation 16:3. The second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of a dead person, and every living thing in the sea died. Those words ring out like a serious charge when the water darkens under a lead-gray sky, as if the ocean is reflecting a stern message. Even though many insist it's just a natural tide, the chaos and overwhelming force of the whirlpool show that the sea can become an instrument of judgment at any time. If today the whirlpool only chases boats a few hundred feet before fading away, what about tomorrow? Will it grow even bigger? And when the ocean starts to move like this, can we still stand firm on the edge of that spinning abyss right beneath our feet? 6. Mysterious glowing orb appears over the ocean. A sudden light breaks away from the sea surface and rises slowly, like the ocean finally letting go of a secret it held for way too long. Off the New Jersey shore, this glowing orb shows up right above the horizon, breaking the quiet moment along the waterfront and pulling our eyes upward with every foot it climbs. No sound at all, no flashing like a regular drone. The orb keeps a steady glow as it rises hundreds of feet and stops near where the moon sits, reflecting light down onto the water like a living mirror. That moment stops you cold, because whatever is hovering there isn't moving like an airplane, isn't falling like a meteor. It's just hanging in the air. Matthew 24:29. Right after those days of trouble, the sun will go dark, the moon won't give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky. A lot of folks think it might be a UAP or some kind of unmanned flying device, but the smooth motion and the way the light spreads right from the orb's surface make the tech explanation feel pretty weak. When the ocean starts giving off light, instead of swallowing it, the whole thing starts feeling like something else, like a signal coming up from the deepest place. Revelation 21:23. The city doesn't need the sun or the moon to shine on it, because God's glory lights it up, and the Lamb is its lamp. If even in the darkest times there's still a source of light that doesn't depend on the sun or moon, then maybe this orb stands for a hope that never goes out. The way it holds steady in the sky reminds us that light doesn't always come down from above. Sometimes it gets lifted up from the deepest depths. And as the orb starts to fade and then disappears completely, the real question left isn't what it was, but whether we caught the message it left behind before the darkness closes in for good. 7. The night sky suddenly got covered by a blood-red color. A normal evening changed in an instant when the sky over the city turned a bright, deep red, like a huge curtain had been pulled across the sky. No lightning, no smoke, just this red spreading out, making the whole city feel wrapped up in it. In many parts of California, it came on so quietly that people only noticed when the streetlights started turning the color of blood. The red didn't explode, it just layered out slowly but steadily, like the sky itself was changing right in front of our eyes. No sound with it, no big movement, just this hanging sheet of light up above, making you feel small, standing in a city you know so well. But now it felt strange and far away. Revelation 6:12. I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black, like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. I didn't. Scientists call it a SAR, arc, from a geomagnetic storm, a rare light effect high up in the atmosphere. But the red was so perfect, so unnatural, that the explanation starts to feel shaky. When the light doesn't flicker, but just quietly drapes down like a curtain, that first curiosity turns into a sense that something's coming. Matthew 24:29. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. If the sky can put on a red curtain like that all by itself, with no man-made lights needed, maybe it's not just some simple atmospheric thing. That red isn't just there. It feels like it's pointing to something we haven't quite caught on to yet. And when the curtain slowly faded away, leaving behind a darker than usual night, the question left hanging isn't where it came from. It's whether we just witnessed an invitation or a warning that something is about to begin. 8. Those clouds had such strange, soft shapes, all puffed up like big balls of cotton. The sky suddenly turned into this huge wool blanket, soft and rolled into round pouches that made the whole city look up in amazement at something so gentle yet shocking. After the storm passed, these cloud clusters just hung there, stretching for miles over the city, and you could feel this special quiet as everyone stopped to stare at a scene that seemed like it only belonged in a painting. This is called mammatus clouds, where the pouches hang down instead of rising up like usual, making it feel like the sky is breathing backward. The soft round shapes stack on each other, and the late day light slides across them, giving them a gentle glow, warm and strange, in a way that's hard to put into words. Matthew 24:30. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. The cozy feeling from those cloud pouches stands against this vague sense of something coming because their perfect shapes look almost hand-woven, making people wonder if nature could really make something so balanced by accident. Some weather experts say it's just the leftover turbulence from a strong storm, but the even spacing and slow drifting make it feel more like preparation than just leftovers. Revelation 14:14. I looked, and there before me was a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like a son of man, with a crown of gold on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. If those clouds aren't just water vapor but also some kind of sign, maybe they're gently hinting at a change that's soft but can't be turned back. Their softness makes us want to believe the sky is wrapping the city in a hug, but it could also be nature or something greater, sewing up the curtain on the world. As the light fades and the pouches melt into the night, what stays isn't fear, it's a quiet waiting. Is that wool blanket getting ready to cover and protect us? Or is it closing one chapter to open something much bigger ahead? 9. Strange flashes of lightning explode across the sky like collisions. The night sky suddenly bursts with a fierce flash of light. Then another one rips through the darkness like two invisible forces just slammed into each other right overhead. No warning siren, no heads up, just these bright streaks that make you freeze in what felt like a safe, quiet moment. The flashes keep coming one after another. Some last only a few seconds. Others leave a faint streak hanging for several minutes. The brightness is like billions of suns coming together, then blinking out. The air around you almost feels heavier, an invisible pressure that keeps you on edge, watching each burst like you're witnessing a silent battle. Matthew 24:27. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Some scientists say it might be reflections from satellites or rare deep space transients, but the steady rhythm and growing intensity of these flashes make the technical explanation hard to buy. The light doesn't just flash and vanish, it seems to answer back, like two energy sources facing off in the sky. Revelation 8:5. The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to the earth, and there were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Those words come to mind like a warning as the flashes keep slicing across the night sky, each one making the surrounding darkness feel even thicker. If this isn't just light bouncing around, if it's the sign of a conflict beyond human understanding, then the sky is no longer a peaceful curtain. Even though plenty of folks try to calm everyone down, saying it's just a natural event or some man-made thing, the drama of these light collisions makes it tough to brush off. And when the last flashes finally fade, leaving the night deeper than before, one question still hangs in the air. If that battle is really happening up there, will the next step come down to where we're standing? 10. Red flashes paint a strange picture across the night sky. A huge red lightning bolt suddenly bursts out above the top of the storm, not like any lightning we've ever seen. In that moment, you realize the sky just changed right before your eyes. It doesn't strike the ground. It doesn't make the usual loud crack. That reddish-orange glow flashes high up and then fades away, like a signal from a place no human can reach. These flashes come in groups, spreading out nearly 30 miles wide, with bright branches reaching down like tree roots, pushing through thick clouds. Their shape doesn't follow normal lightning patterns. They look more like a living, glowing form hanging in the air, making many who see them wonder where the line is between natural events and something beyond our understanding. Luke 21:11. There will be great signs from heaven and great earthquakes in various places. Researchers call them high-altitude discharges, or red sprites. But the bright red color and the way they stretch across dozens of miles make the scientific explanation feel a bit thin compared to the sacred feeling they bring. The light doesn't just flash. It seems to draw a sign across the sky, lasting long enough for watchers to know this isn't ordinary lightning. Revelation 11:19. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. And there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a severe hailstorm. If those red flashes aren't just electrical bursts but carry a bigger meaning, then each one could be marking another step closer to the time of judgment. The sky doesn't simply light up and go dark again. It leaves behind a heavy silence, as if a declaration has just come down from the highest place. Even if we call them rare atmospheric events, the way those red lights appear in the middle of a fierce storm still makes us think about things science can't fully explain yet. And when the last light fades behind the dark clouds, the question that lingers isn't where it came from, but which side we'll stand on when the next sign appears. 10 signs have shown up, each one like a piece falling from the sky. When you put them together, they form a picture that science can see but can't fully explain yet. What we're seeing isn't just clouds moving, oceans shifting, or lights flashing. It's a string of signals coming more and more often. It makes people stop and think about the line between what we know and what we believe. Matthew 24:33. In the same way, when you see all these things, you know the Son of Man is near, right at the door. From bright streaks tearing across the sky to huge swirling storms in the ocean, everything is reminding us that the world is entering a big time of change. These events that seem separate are actually connected in a way that has a lot of folks thinking about promises and warnings written down long before we had modern measuring tools. Luke 21:28. When these things start happening, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. This isn't just a time to watch, it's a time for each of us to look at our own faith in a world that's changing every day. If these signs really carry a message, then listening and thinking about them might be the first step to getting ready for what's coming, before that final door closes. Revelation 3:20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him and he with me. If the sky is sending us a reminder, this could be the moment to pause and turn back to the light that guides us. Feel free to leave a prayer or your thoughts in the comments. Share this message with your loved ones and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more signs that show up. Thanks so much for watching. I pray that you and your family stay safe and have peace. Amen.
Tracks that might be made by a tractor or a plow. No tire tracks and no...
It got...
Can you feel it? When the ground starts shaking, volcanoes erupt violently, the sky goes pitch dark with weird, twisted shapes you can't even name, and deep roars come up from way down inside the earth like ancient warnings that've been buried for thousands of years. Everything's shifting, cracking, spinning right in front of us. Something's coming closer, faster than we think. From towering ash columns swallowing the light, to eerie sounds rising from a deep well near the Euphrates River, to swarms of insects blocking out the sky over the Kamchatka Peninsula. From strange objects spinning and hovering in the air over Prague, the moon looking out of sync above Chicago, to rivers of sand pouring down like waterfalls in Saudi Arabia, and giant patterns carved into the ground at Alvord Desert. All of it is hitting us hard, spreading fast, and not slowing down one bit. Now, come with me as we dive into each of these events and pull back the curtain on the truth. But first, please leave a prayer in the comments below, just a simple way to tell God you still trust Him. Amen. And so you don't have to wait long, we're jumping right in with 1. Manaro Voi volcano erupts on Ambae Island, Vanuatu. Manaro Voi is roaring and erupting hard on Ambae Island in Vanuatu. That huge column of ash shoots straight up like a black wall, swallowing the Pacific sky, and you can almost feel the ground shaking under your feet, even from halfway around the world. This giant volcano isn't just smoking, it's roaring, tearing the air apart, forcing thousands of people to run for their lives in panic as thick ash starts falling like poisonous rain. Ambe is a volcanic island with a long history of big activity, but this time, the ash plume climbs nearly 10,000 feet, spreading out and blocking the sun in the middle of the day, turning everything a heavy gray. Ash piles up on roofs, gardens, and water supplies, shutting down normal life in just a few hours. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." End quote. Those words echo amid the tremors spreading from deep underground, feeling more like a quiet hint than a final answer. Lava starts pouring out, glowing red and rolling like hot blood from a wound in the earth. Constant quakes crack the ground and shake houses non-stop. Scientists say it's from magma pressure building in a chamber below, but the speed and strength of this eruption have caught a lot of people by surprise. Luke 21:11 notes, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven." As ash swirls over the peak, it's hard not to think of those great signs from heaven the old words talked about. Back in the 19th century, history records a fierce lightning strike hitting the top of a sleeping volcano, and soon after, a chain of powerful eruptions broke out, destroying everything around, wiping out villages and burying life under thick ash. Those decades saw many volcanoes suddenly wake up and wreck wide areas, almost like a harsh cleansing cycle sweeping the world. Revelation 8:5 says, "The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth, and there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." The picture of fire falling from heaven and the earth shaking makes a lot of folks stop and wonder if some kind of cleansing is being hinted at. Some see this as just normal earth movement, part of how the planet works, but the timing, with these violent eruptions lining up with other strange events around the world, makes the picture feel heavier. When a volcano roars and swallows the light, it might just be nature doing its thing, but it could also be the opening signal for something much bigger, quietly coming closer. If this volcano is only the first drumbeat in a deeper series of movements, how much louder will the next roars from the earth get? And where exactly are we in that countdown? 2. The Devil's Well, with terrifying sounds in the desert and the Euphrates River. A horrible scream tears through the night, coming up from the bottom of a deep well out in the empty desert. The sound is eerie and twisted, like thousands of suffering souls all waking up from hell at the same time. It doesn't sound like wind or a machine. It's a long, vibrating cry that rises high, then drops low, giving you chills in just the first few seconds. The viral video shows the exact moment the well cover pops open, and that sound rushes out like breath trapped for centuries. The well is in a lonely desert spot, no signs, just sand and wind. But when the man bends down and pulls the cover off, the ground shakes a little, then the scream booms from the dark depths. The noise echoes off the well walls, coming back like metal hitting metal, like chains being dragged through the dark. You can almost imagine standing right at the edge, feeling those waves of sound rise up from below like hidden currents. Other recordings near the Euphrates River catch similar noises, as if the ground is sending out strange signals from something you can't see. In Revelation 9:14 it says, "Speak to the sixth angel who has the trumpet. Release the 4 angels bound at the great river Euphrates." Those words point right to that ancient river, where Bible teaching says certain beings are tied up, waiting for the time they're set free. And in recent years, the water in the Euphrates has dropped to a serious low, with big stretches of the riverbed dry and exposed. Talk about devil wells and sleeping entities has spread. mixing in with news about the environment and the supernatural. Revelation 9:15 continues. The four angels who had been kept ready for that very hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. When screams come from the well and sounds like chains clashing echo from spots near the Lord River, a lot of people start connecting it to a release that's been foretold. 2 Peter 2-4 also says, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until judgment." Those words don't just stay on the page when things today seem to fit together piece by piece. Still, some people don't believe it and say it's only wind blowing through rock cracks or sound echoes in a deep hole. But the fact that the same kinds of noises show up in different places, on different videos, right when the holy river is drying up, makes the worry spread wider. When dry ground suddenly lets out screams like souls in pain, and a river mentioned in prophecy slowly uncovers parts hidden for thousands of years, the warning doesn't feel so far away anymore. If those chained beings are starting to move under the sand and stone, if the screams from the well are just the first sign of something rising that's been set for a long time, then what will happen when that door really flies open and the next signs start appearing across the sky and the earth? 3. A swirling tornado made up of thousands upon thousands of mosquitoes, full of mystery. A really strange and hard to believe scene is happening right in front of us. The sky suddenly swirls wildly, with millions of mosquitoes gathering into a thick black column. It moves like a living tornado trying to come down to the ground. The air shakes with such a thick buzzing that it's hard to breathe. In just a few minutes, you can't see anything. The daylight turns dim and hazy like dusk. People stand frozen, staring at this huge spinning mass of creatures right overhead. And do you know why mosquitoes act this strange way? This usually happens in damp areas near rivers, lakes, or swamps during breeding season. But what really scares people isn't just the mosquitoes being there. It's how they join together into towers, dozens of feet high, twisting like tiny waterspouts and moving in directions you can't predict. Some folks who saw it say the mosquito column can drift with the wind, then suddenly straighten itself out to keep the same shape, as if some invisible order is controlling the whole swarm. Something similar was recorded in Pune, where smaller insects, like midges, form such dense columns they look like black smoke rising from the ground. From far away, the thing doesn't break apart. It holds its shape for many minutes, slowly swirling like a living pillar floating in the air. A lot of people thought it was a smoldering fire. In Exodus 8:17 it says, "If you refuse to let my people go, I will send swarms of flies upon you and your officials, your people, and your houses." Scientists explain it's a swarming behavior during mating season. Male mosquitoes gather in big groups to attract females, using vibrations and light signals to keep the flying structure steady. Still, in some cases, these mosquito tornadoes get way bigger than what's usually seen, with such thick density that they block out part of the horizon. In Revelation 9:3, it says, "And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power, like that of scorpions of the earth." Science is right about the biology behind it, but the timing, the size, and the way it shows up make a lot of people think harder about things written down so long ago. In Luke 21:11 it says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places." When pests spread out of control like this, is it just a natural cycle or a sign that's been warned about ahead of time? One mosquito column is enough to throw a whole neighborhood into panic. But if similar things started happening all at once on the Kamchatka Peninsula, where the ecosystem is already so fragile, what would the sky look like there? Completely covered by millions of swirling creatures in total silence? 4. A cloud of mosquitoes over the Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia. The sun got blocked out. A thick, dark, mysterious cloud swallowed up the whole daytime when millions of mosquitoes suddenly covered the sky over the Kamchatka Peninsula. They formed such a dense, swirling mass that they hid the sunlight for hours, leaving the whole area along the Bering coast feeling stuffy and smothered, like it was buried under a living, vibrating curtain. It wasn't a storm cloud. It was a huge living thing hanging over everyone's heads, stretching hundreds of yards and staying there for 2 straight days. These mosquito columns didn't just move. They spun around a center where millions of male mosquitoes gathered around a few females to mate. It looked like a standing biological tornado in the air, sometimes leaning with the wind, then straightening up again, as if some invisible force was keeping the whole living mass together. In Exodus 10:14 it says, "The locusts covered the face of the whole land of Egypt, so that the land was darkened." People's reactions split right away into 2 clear sides. A lot of local folks stayed inside their homes, scared of this insect darkness blocking every path. But some Christian communities stayed amazingly calm. A few believers reassured everyone, saying all these changes are under God's ultimate control, and they weren't afraid of what was happening around them. What do you think gave them that kind of peace? Was it just faith, or something deeper? Scientists point to climate change making mosquito breeding explode in these cold coastal areas. But many folks say a sudden spread this huge, one that blocks the whole horizon, can't just be a normal life cycle. In Revelation 16:2 it says, "The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly, painful sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worshipped its image." As these swirling swarms keep showing up, worries about pests and disease grow by the hour, especially since people can't even leave their houses with the thick bugs hanging right outside the windows. In Matthew 24:7 it says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." If this living darkness can cover the sun today, what else might cover the earth and sky tomorrow? 5. A mysterious white cube spinning in the Prague night sky. A white cube suddenly appeared, spinning and floating in the night sky over Prague. It reflected light in bright, glaring streaks, almost like its surface wasn't made of anything normal. In that quiet moment, we could see its slow movement cutting through the clouds, like some purposeful structure coming from nowhere. It stayed there for nearly 5 minutes, then vanished all at once right in front of dozens of cameras, making the whole sky feel like it had just bent according to some strange rule. Many witnesses said the object was huge, about the size of a 6-story building. It rotated steadily around its own axis, with no sound at all. That quickly ruled out drones or airplanes, since there were no signs of air movement or engines. In Luke 21:25 it says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Online, people quickly split into 2 sides. One group thought it might be some secret military device being tested. The other side leaned toward UFO because a perfect cube shape is so rare and it disappeared instantly without leaving any heat trace. The debate went on for days with no clear answer, and that opened the door to explanations beyond just regular technology. In Revelation 12:12 it says, "Woe to the earth and the sea. The devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows his time is short." A lot of folks started seeing this as part of a bigger series of signs in the sky, things that don't just amaze us, but carry a message we need to figure out. In Daniel 12:1 it says, "At that time Michael, the great prince who stands watch over your people, will arise, with all the arguments still hanging." This old scripture feels like a key to understanding these strange events, strengthening the belief that everything is following a much larger plan. The white cube is gone now, but the feeling that something was arranged still hangs over that old city, leaving an aftertaste that makes the moon the next night look somehow different in a way that's hard to explain. 6. The moon moved strangely across the sky over Chicago. The moon up above Chicago suddenly slid sideways in just a few seconds, like someone yanked the whole background of reality off track. Its usual path started shaking from right to left, right in front of hundreds of people watching. No clouds in the way, just this giant satellite slipping along in unbelievable silence, when we always thought it never changed. Plenty of videos caught the same odd movement, showing the moon like it was jerking frame by frame, jumping position inch by inch across the calm night sky. It felt like space was being torn apart layer by layer, invisible layers. In Luke 21:25, it says, "There will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth nations will be worried and confused because of the roaring sea and waves." Atmospheric experts think this could be from ice crystals in the upper air, creating a temporary shift illusion, like how light bends through a prism and makes things look off from certain angles. At the same time, Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." Long-time sky watchers say they've never seen anything so jerky or broken up, where the moon just slid across space without getting dimmer or changing shape. In Revelation 6:12 it says, "I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth, and the whole moon became red like blood." Some folks suggested camera glitches, but shots from different spots miles apart all showed the same kind of shift, so a pure tech explanation doesn't hold up too well. This doesn't throw out science, but it does give another way to look at these little changes that suddenly touch the very foundation of our stable physical world. When something as familiar as the moon can jump out of place in just a few seconds, you really feel how fragile the order of the universe is, and the night horizon seems to be waiting for something else to cross it. 7. A strange creature looking like a giant squid floating in the sky over Minsk, Belarus. A huge squid-like thing suddenly appeared floating above Minsk. It drifted slowly across the night sky, almost like it had just come up from the deep ocean and flown right into the air. You couldn't look away from its smooth, quiet movements. No wings, no engine, just a half see-through shape, giving off a soft glow against the dark sky. People who saw it said the body was dozens of feet long, with soft tentacles moving gently like it was swimming in water. It left faint, glowing trails behind each twist and turn, making the whole thing look like a giant sea creature that somehow ended up in the sky. In Luke 21:11, it says, "There will be great terrors and signs from heaven." Some videos show the object changing shape a little every second, stretching and shrinking like it was alive, totally different from the stiff motion of a balloon or drone. And it made no sound at all the whole time it was visible, which lasted almost 3 minutes. In Daniel 7:3, it says, "4 great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another." Folks watching this called it the Belarusian sky squid because of the hazy membrane around its body that caught and reflected light with every move, making it seem like the creature was breathing in the air instead of just floating. In Revelation 9-7 it says, "The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they had something like golden crowns, and their faces were like human faces." People came up with some technical ideas to explain it, but nothing really fits the way it glowed like sea life and moved so naturally and softly. This makes it one of the hardest sightings to figure out in the area. That quiet but lively appearance feels like a reminder that there are layers of reality we haven't seen yet, and maybe far-off deserts are getting ready to tell another story. 8. Sandfall in Saudi Arabia. Right in the middle of Saudi Arabia's bone-dry desert, a waterfall, not of water, but of sand, suddenly pours down from a cliff hundreds of feet high. It flows like the ground itself is melting and sliding away from the solid order we always thought would never change. We barely have time to figure out what's happening before the whole golden scene fills our view. In narrow canyons, carved by rare rain erosion, water suddenly pools after a big storm and drags tons of fine sand down from the top, creating a huge sandfall that keeps flowing for several minutes. It twists and turns like lava, but glows bright under the sun. In Joel 2:30, it says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." Some geologists say this is a rare kind of landslide, where deep rainwater weakens the sand and rock structure. Still, the way it stretches over 300 feet with such smooth, even flow makes it look more like something designed than just a random natural event. In Revelation 16:18, it says, "There came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake, such as there had never been since man was on the earth." The sand pours down without breaking apart. It flows in layers like a liquid, reshaping the land in just a short time. The whole lower surface gets covered by a fresh layer of sediment, like a curtain changing the landscape. In Matthew 24-29, it says, "The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." Some folks say it's just the result of extreme weather. But when the earth starts to flow like water, that sight feels like a quiet warning about how fragile the order we once trusted really is. And far off, the Oregon desert seems to be hiding patterns that are even harder to understand. 9. Mysterious patterns in the Oregon desert. On the cracked ground of Oregon's Alvord Desert, a huge pattern suddenly showed up right in the middle of the dry lake bed. It was like some invisible hand quietly drew it during the night, and you only really grasp how big it is when you look down from way up high. The lines stretch a total of more than 13 miles, forming a perfect geometric shape about a quarter-mile wide, with triangles and circles fitted together so precisely that not a single footprint or tire track was left on the fine, dusty surface. In Daniel 12:4, it says, "But you, Daniel, shut up these words, and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Civilian pilots were the first ones to spot this structure from the air, when the straight lines and crossing angles created a design that many people say reminds them of the Sri Yantra, though its origin is still very much debated. In Revelation 13:18, it says, "This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Still, some people think it's a large-scale human art piece, but the perfect geometry and super remote location make that hard to confirm, especially since no usual signs of construction were found at the site. In Luke 21:25, it says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth distress of nations in perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves." Those perfect patterns just sit there quietly in the desert, like a message that hasn't been fully decoded yet. And far out at sea, schools of sardines seem to be starting to move in a way that makes a lot of folks stop and wonder. 10. Millions of sardines wash up on shore, a strange and amazing sight. Millions of sardines suddenly came rushing right onto the beach, turning the clear blue water into a thick, swirling, chaotic mass. In just a few minutes, the peaceful shoreline turned into a deadly trap as shark fins began cutting through the waves toward it. Would you dare stay standing in that boiling, churning water? In places like South Africa or Australia, this thing called the sardine run is a natural migration that happens every year. But when millions of these small fish, only a few inches long, charge into shallow water, jumping wildly to escape predators, the surface looks like it's being stirred by some invisible force. Sharks race in after the schools, dolphins and seals circle from below, seabirds dive from above. It creates a thick whirlpool of hunting that could trap any swimmer right in the middle of the chaos. In Luke 21:25, it says, "And on the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring." When the water is no longer calm but pounding with heavy waves, the thrashing tails and constant collisions sound like a storm rising right under people's feet. The unease doesn't just come from nature. It comes from the feeling that the normal order we know is starting to crack. People say it's just a seasonal migration, but it's getting thicker and more intense every time. Removing protective nets and the growing number of predators make the real danger higher than ever. When the water turns red from torn-apart fish, the scene reminds us of a judgment that was announced long ago. In Revelation 16:3 it says, "And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea." The sight of sharks slicing through the thick mass of fish is like an invisible fire sweeping everything in its path. Panic spreads faster than the tide, as if the ocean is carrying out a final, unstoppable verdict. In Joel 2:3 it says, "A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth." If the sea, the symbol of life itself, starts turning chaotic and becomes a battlefield for survival, is it just an ecology coincidence? Or is it the last warning that the time of judgment is drawing near? The ocean is changing, more fierce and unpredictable, and each of those boiling, surging waves feels like it's knocking on people's hearts, waking us up to the fact that we're no longer outside these strange signs. What's happening now may just be the beginning of bigger upheavals. The question left isn't what is going on, it's whether you're ready to face what's coming. Here are 10 phenomena that have passed right before our eyes, like a series of strange signs strung together by the same invisible thread, from unusual movements deep underground to changes up in the sky. From cracked deserts to oceans churning wildly, the ground shakes, the sky shows odd shapes, and the seas become more chaotic than ever before. All of it forms one connected picture, not scattered pieces, as if nature is speaking the same warning language. When we look back at the whole journey, we don't just see separate events, we see a quickening rhythm, an increase in both strength and frequency. It makes people wonder, could these be signs of a very special time? In Matthew 24-42 it says, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." Those words aren't meant to scare us. They're like a bell ringing in the middle of the night, waking us up so we don't stay asleep in carelessness. If these strange signs really are reminders, then what matters isn't panic, it's getting our hearts ready. It isn't fear, it's turning back, repenting, and putting our trust in the Most High. Hope doesn't disappear in the warnings. In fact, it's right in the middle of these upheavals that faith gets tested and grows stronger. Because when everything material starts to shake, only the spiritual foundation stands firm. Maybe you've followed along from the very first sign up to this moment. Maybe questions have come up in your heart that don't have answers yet, and that's completely normal when we face things beyond human understanding. But instead of letting unease take the lead, let being awake open a new path. Let each day become a chance to change, to love, to get ready for something much bigger that's drawing near. If you feel something moving in your spirit right now, leave a sincere prayer or thought in the comments below. A prayer is never meaningless in times like these. Please hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the next messages. Each one might be an important piece in the picture that's coming together. Thank you for staying with me to the end of this journey. I pray that you and your family stay in peace, protected, and guided through all the changes of these times. What will the next sign be? The final period is getting close, and what remains is how we choose to live starting today. Amen. Have you ever wondered if God wanted to say something to humanity, how would he choose to do it? In an age where science can analyze, measure, and explain almost every natural phenomenon, there are still moments that leave even the experts scratching their heads, completely unable to figure out what's going on. And those things don't come to scare us. They come to wake us up and get our attention. This video takes us through 10 strange phenomena actually recorded at real locations in the US, Canada, China, and Kazakhstan. Tall columns of light shooting straight up into the night sky. Perfect round cloud rings opening up high in the atmosphere. Mysterious sounds echoing so loud that whole communities hear them. Glowing streaks moving in very unusual paths. Clouds forming shapes that leave people stunned. These aren't just old stories passed around with no proof. They're real events caught on photos, videos, and told by multiple witnesses. And before we dive into these mysteries that can't be explained, feel free to leave a prayer in the comments below as a way to show your faith. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait any longer, let's get right started with 1. The sky was split in two, one side pouring rain, the other side strangely dry. The sky over a city street near the Canadian border got torn right down the middle, straight in front of our eyes. Rain came down like a waterfall on one side, while the other side stayed completely dry and sunny. That moment made everyone stop and really look at what was happening. Cars slammed on their brakes, people stepped out from the sidewalks, and we all watched this invisible line dividing the air in a way we'd never seen before. In just a few minutes, they measured 2 inches of rain dumping hard on one half of the road, while the other half didn't get a single drop. Cameras caught a sharp dividing line stretching hundreds of feet, clean as if someone had built a wall between two masses of air. This kind of thing is usually called ultra-localized rain and tied to small convective clouds. But here, the boundary didn't spread or move at all like the weather models always predict. Ezekiel 1-4 says, "And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud with fire flashing forth and brightness all around." The Bible's descriptions of wind and clouds show that nature doesn't just move randomly, it can also become a way for something far beyond human measurement to show its power. Scientists quickly came up with ideas, saying it was probably just a pressure difference or a tiny convective cloud mass. But none of the models could explain why the rain line stopped exactly at the edge of the street without spilling over to either side. No gradual change, no wet middle zone, just one side soaked in rain and the other bone dry. Psalm 18:10 says, "He rode upon a cherub and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind." When people put those words next to what was just recorded, a lot of folks started seeing it as a hint that natural forces can still be directed in ways we never expect. If the weather can split so cleanly like that in only a few minutes, then what made that perfect dividing line? This wasn't just caught on camera. It's opening up a bigger question about how the sky can show us things we never even thought to consider. 2. A strange-shaped cloud that looks like a secret base up in the sky. Peeking out from behind the clouds, a huge shape suddenly appeared on top of the mountain. It made a bunch of cars slow down, and lots of people pulled over just to stare up at it. This wasn't some regular cloud drifting by. It was a structure just hanging there in the middle of the sky, so striking that anyone around Mount Shasta could tell something unusual was going on. Up on the high slopes, a disc-shaped lenticular cloud, maybe thousands of feet across, stayed floating in place for hours with almost no change. Its surface caught the light and made it look more solid than any normal cloud. Strong winds were blowing through the area, but instead of stretching out or breaking up, the cloud kept its perfect symmetrical shape, like it was locked in one spot in the sky. You can clearly see the whole thing moving slowly in videos taken from different angles. Psalm 104:3 says, "He lays the beams of his upper chambers in the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot. He rides on the wings of the wind." When you put that verse next to the sight of a cloud moving in such an orderly way, like something with purpose, many believers feel this isn't just weather. It's a reminder that signs in the sky were talked about a long time ago. On social media, some folks see it as proof of a hidden base or some kind of strange object. Others say it's just a natural thing caused by wind blowing over high mountains. Weather experts call it a lenticular cloud, but the way it stayed so steady for so long still sparks a lot of debate. The faith community pays special attention to its perfect symmetry and where it formed. They don't think it's a coincidence that it showed up in a mountain area known for all kinds of strange happenings. Ezekiel 10:9 says, "I looked, and there were 4 wheels beside the cherubim, 1 wheel beside each cherub, and the appearance of the wheels was like the color of beryl." Pictures of bright round structures appearing in the sky have been described before as a warning that the heavens can show things beyond our normal understanding. If these kinds of signs aren't as new as we might think, then every time one shows up, what exactly are we being reminded of? And if that cloud wasn't just something the wind made, then what might be hidden behind that calm, still surface? 3. A strange beam of light moves across the sky like it has a mind of its own. A sudden beam of light appeared right in the low clouds. It wasn't coming from the ground, and it didn't follow any normal path. The sky above got hazy, like something thin was covering it. The whole thing made people wonder about supernatural beings. Out in the countryside of Saskatchewan, Canada, several videos show long rays of light, hundreds of feet long, changing direction every few minutes. But they never pointed back to one clear source. People watching noticed the brightness would suddenly get stronger, then fade fast. The clouds around it didn't reflect the light the way normal refraction does. Instead, there was this separate, glowing area standing out against the sky behind it. Daniel 10:6 says, "His body was like beryl, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches." When these beams moved in uneven rhythms, a lot of folks thought of beings described with light, like some kind of presence, quietly watching and guarding something still hidden. The usual explanations are that it might be ground searchlights bouncing off low clouds, or light bending through thick, moist air. But no lighting equipment was found anywhere for miles around. Plus, the beams changed angle on their own, not following the wind at all. Regular refraction patterns just can't recreate this under the same conditions. Revelation 12:7 says, "Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon." When you put that next to these shifting light bands that look like they're scanning the sky, some believers see it as a sign. They think what's showing up isn't just physical. It points to an invisible battle protecting the world we can see. If light can move without depending on any source, what's guiding its path? And if these beams aren't just some weather effect, then the next time they show up, what exactly will they be searching for in the sky? 4. Mysterious glowing orbs, like the Ophanim angels. These glowing orbs suddenly appeared above the neighborhood, made sharp turns, stopped, then kept flying without making any sound at all. A bunch of videos from the suburbs in New Jersey show them responding to calls and hand gestures from the ground, leaving lots of people stunned when they realized the movements weren't random. Each orb looks about 5 to 10 feet across, giving off light that shifts from gold to blue while staying in perfect formation up in the air, spinning like a set of wheels nested inside each other. You can clearly see their curved paths repeating over and over without getting thrown off by strong wind. Some patrol units went close to the area, but didn't pick up any remote control signals or radio waves that would match a drone. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 15 says, "As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each of the 4-faced creatures." Pictures of round, orderly moving structures have been described before as signs of something present from above, reminding us that not every movement in the sky can be measured by our instruments. Some folks say these are test drones or glowing balloons, but there's no propeller system, no aerodynamic vibration, and no heat trail like you'd see from mechanical devices. Plus, the way the light changes color and rhythm with their motion hasn't been exactly matched by any commercial flying model out there. As the tech explanations start to fall apart, a lot of believers are noticing how the orbs keep perfect spacing, like they're on some kind of watch or monitoring mission. Ezekiel 10:12 says, "Their whole bodies, backs, hands, wings, and the wheels were full of eyes all around." That description is seen as a warning that wheel-like moving symbols were once mentioned to point to observation and control, like a reminder of the path humanity is choosing. If these orbs aren't following any normal flying rules we know, then what's guiding their paths? And if their presence carries a message, the next time they show up, are we being watched because we've drifted off the course that was set for us? 5. The mysterious door in the clouds over Lake Huron. A huge rectangular shape hung there in the gray clouds, so sharp and clear it looked like someone had cut and pasted it right into the sky, appearing above the calm water of Lake Huron. It wasn't some fuzzy streak of light or a broken piece of cloud. It was a real door with soft, glowing edges and a center that was pitch black and deep. If a true doorway really opened up high in the sky, would you dare believe your own eyes or think it was just a trick of the light? People saw this near the Michigan shore, in the area right along the Canadian border, a place that's had lots of reports of strange things in the sky over the years. Witnesses guess the door was hundreds of feet wide, with straight sides and almost perfect right angles. It just hung there steady for several minutes without blending into the clouds around it. Revelation 4:1 says, "After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven." Those words sound like they explain it perfectly, because a door up in the middle of the sky isn't some strange new idea in the Bible. It's been described before as a sign of connection between two different realms. A lot of folks say it's just an optical illusion from layers of cold and warm air stacking up, but weather experts couldn't recreate that sharp rectangular shape with such steady edges. Plus, the military sent out an urgent response team, so they clearly didn't think it was just a regular cloud. The light coming from the door frame didn't scatter like sunlight bouncing off something. It seemed to come from the edge itself, giving the feeling of a real boundary between two spaces. Genesis 28:12 says, "He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it." When you put that next to this door floating over the lake, many believers feel it's more than just weather. It's a sign of an opening, a place where God's power allows heaven and earth to touch for a moment. If it really was a door that opened for a short time and then closed again, what was it for? And who would be allowed to step through? The whole thing didn't just amaze people. It stirred up faith that His kingdom isn't far away at all. It's just behind a thin veil we hardly ever get to see. And if that door ever opens again someday, would you be ready to walk toward that light? 6. Demon face at the music concert. A big concert full of bright lights and loud music suddenly stopped for a split second when the huge LED screen behind the stage flashed something that wasn't part of the show at all. A face with glowing red eyes and twisted features appeared for less than a second. It happened right in the middle of Diljit Dosanjh's concert in Sydney, with tens of thousands of people watching live. Videos from different spots in the stadium show the face popped up exactly when the singer made a triangle hand sign. It wasn't normal stage lighting or a scene transition. It was a clear, deep image that made the whole crowd scream at once. Do you really think a simple display glitch could make something that lifelike in less than one frame? Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." When people put this moment next to that warning, a lot of viewers felt what flashed on screen wasn't just static. It was a quick glimpse of something that's usually hidden. The lighting and sound engineers later said it could have been a glitch in the display system, but the timing with the hand